Hey YouTube, it's Dimitri, and today we're going to talk about LinkedIn, and I'm going to gripe and complain a bit, but I'm going to show you guys what I get for messages and emails here. I'll keep all the privacy, even from the dumb people. But we're going to talk a little bit about the messages I get. The number of messages are just insane. I can't handle all of them, so I apologize when I don't respond to emails. But I'm going to show you guys what makes me respond quicker, what makes me not respond, and some tips and tricks on how to contact professionals and ask for things here. So let's just start off with a really awkward one. Somebody messaged me and put, "Hey Dimitri, I'm happy to make your acquaintance. I trust you are having a wonderful week and that your year is concluding on a positive and note." So not good English to start with. It's okay. They're actually foreign. And then they sign their name. It's a nice note. So you want me to have a good day? Like, I don't know what you want me to do though. Like, if you're going to message me, like, give me something. Like, I've had people message me, just to give you an example here. If you want to thank me, say, "Hey Dimitri, thank you for the YouTube channel." I get these ones a lot. I watched a lot of your videos over the years. Your information has been very, very helpful. It helped me get into such and such graduate school. I'm now currently looking for a job. If you happen to know of any opportunities that are open, let me know. This is an awesome email. One, because I can message you back with a quick response of like, "Thanks for the feedback on the channel." Like, it's great to know that. I might even ask you like, what was a helpful video with your job search, or what was like one of the most helpful videos for studying or for school or something, right? Provide me some feedback. I love to know how to improve the channel. That helps me, right? You're giving something to me by giving a feedback. And it also makes it easy for me to respond. Also, if you want to slide in there at the end, like you're looking for an internship or you're looking for a job, right? Now I'm going to probably open your profile and look at it. And I'm going to say, "Oh, okay, awesome. Like, this person's looking for a job. They went to, I don't know, Stony Brook University, University of Chicago. They went somewhere, great school, whatever." And I'm going to think in my head, do I have any jobs I know? Most likely I don't. But when I need to fill a job and somebody messages me about having a job they need filled, I'll usually just search my messages on LinkedIn and look for one of you. So that is a much better approach than just telling me something like, I hope you're having a great day. Like, I'm not going to respond to this, because typically these responses, what they turn into is like, "Oh, thanks." And then they say, "Oh, do you have any advice for such and such?" And this person's profile I've opened specifically, they are very, very young, but they are a founder of a company, which means they're just looking to kind of get information out of me, or they're looking to sell me a service or a product. I'm not here to be sold, guys. I'm here on LinkedIn to contact people professionally and work with you one-on-one. The other big turnoff for me is this other person sent me a message and put, "Hey Dimitri, came across your profile in the banking careers group here on LinkedIn and feel like we both help the same people, business owners. At my company, my role is to assist entrepreneurs who are looking for financing with a wide range of products throughout the alternative markets, blah, blah, blah. I just don't care." And of course, they're so bold enough, they'll put a link in there to set up a Calendly time slot for 15-minute introduction call. Like, don't spam people. It drives me nuts. Even if you're running a business on here and you're looking for leads, you are far better off, again, going back to this group, this banking careers group we're in, interacting, adding some useful advice, having somebody say, "Wow, that's really insightful," and then following up to connect with you. And then you may be having a few more conversations, and then you mentioning, "Hey, I happen to, help people out with financing." So again, spam emails, complete crap. So I ignore these ones and don't respond, or I just block them, which happens quite a bit. Now, the third annoying piece here for emails is people that just don't listen. So you tell them something, and then they think, "That's nice that you said that, but that doesn't really matter." And then they try to ask the same question again, as if somehow you're going to give them something different. So I'll give you an example here. Somebody asked about, if we're hiring and yada, 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 and they can provide me a CV, and they're a great learner and they're the most amazing person in the world. And of course, they're in a third world country, as most people are that are contacting me with these sorts of approaches. And so I told you, "Thanks for reaching out. However, I'm not hiring," which is true. I'm not hiring. I could provide you a whole bunch of other information, but I'm typically not going to. I thought I'd be a little nice here and say, also, it is very rare a U.S. company will hire from abroad. Trying to hint that, like, one, I'm not hiring, so I can't help you. We already know that. And then two, most companies don't hire abroad. So U.S. companies don't typically hire abroad. Sometimes you can outsource to another country. But that's a little bit different. And typically there's, brokers and consulting companies in the middle that got their grubby, dirty hands all in there, pulling fees out for doing this whole process. If you didn't know, I'm not a fan of consultants. But then on top of this, right, other countries as well. Like, I talk to people that'll work in a specific, like Australia or somewhere, Singapore, and they're like, "Yeah, we don't bring people in from this place or that place." Like, why would we? right? We have a good pool here. Now, Singapore might be a little bit different. I don't know about Singapore, but I know for like London, a lot of times they focus mainly on like the EU. They won't hire outside of that. There are some weird like exceptions to the rules, but very rarely do companies hire outside of their actual countries because there's a lot of paperwork and headaches, and some countries even have policies that prevent it. So again, you're not going to do it. It's just not going to happen. So then they message me back though, and they say, "Dear Dimitri, thank you for your prompt response. I appreciate your transparency regarding the current hiring status." Okay, they must understand me. While I understand the challenges with hiring from abroad, I am open to exploring remote collaboration opportunities. If such arrangements are not feasible, I'd be grateful if you could suggest any contacts within your network in Europe or elsewhere who might be interested in my profile. Attaches my resume for your reference, and they go on, and it's just like, guys, I'm not a hiring service. Like, I get it. You're looking for work. If I know someone, you look like a great hire, I'll try to make you a fit if I can. But at the end of the day, I'm not getting paid to do recruiting and hiring. So it's not going to be that beneficial for the two of us. And then to top all this off, just to give you guys some insight here, I've had students who I've met. So shout out to all those that came to the Princeton conference this year. A few of them, excellent, top-notch students, have messaged me, and some just amazing subscribers in general have messaged me and added me, and I've looked, and you have great educations, internships, experience. Like, these are like rock stars, guys. These are 5 out of 5 stars, and they're messaging me saying, "Dimitri, if you have any opportunities, I'll come work for you for free, side projects, anything like that. I'm just looking to get some really good hands-on experience. If you have a paid internship, I'd love to do that as well, remote or on-site. I'm open to anything." So I could bring in one of these people, 5 stars in the US, already set up, already know them, already have a relationship with them. Or I could just venture out and hope someone from another third world country is going to be able to fit with this. Like, I mean, even if you go countries in Europe, I don't know, the fancy Imperial College, Oxford College, right? Why would I do it? I don't need you. I have people here in the US that I can do it, that are great talent, top notch. Again, top universities here as well. So again, don't go around people and they tell you, "Hey, we don't have opportunities, we don't have this, we don't have that, we can't help you." And then you're like, "But, if you could do this extra stuff for me, and if you could," like, I've already given you the answer, just live with it and move on and thank me for my advice. Another example of this is going to be, people have been trying to set up calls with me for years now. I rarely ever take calls anymore. Just to give you perspective on here, I might get 30 emails, 40 emails a week on LinkedIn. I probably get 1 a week on my work email. Do not email me on my work email. It drives me nuts that people like pull it off of other sites or information and then try to email me through work. I mean, if I contact you through like a recruiting event, right? So I go to there and I give you my information for recruiting. Like, you can use my work one. We're all good. But other people, it's like, just drives me nuts. But anyways, I just don't take calls. I don't have the time. I have a wife, 2 kids. I run this YouTube channel. I run another YouTube channel. I run a full-time job at a startup firm trying to get a whole quant team and a whole business off the ground. I don't have a lot of extra time. So often I just barely have enough time to shoot a video and slap it together for you guys for the week here. And of course I have all these great ideas in my head and I want to plan and do math and do all this stuff. I don't have time. So adding extra calls on top of this is just not feasible. Even if people started paying me at my rate, which is hundreds of dollars an hour, it's not going to be worth my time. I'd rather spend it gardening or with my family or doing things outside of my working life of YouTube in my day job here. But anyway, somebody reached out and asked that is a huge fan of the channel, which is awesome. And they'd love to do a virtual chat sometime. I said, thanks for reaching out. However, due to my schedule, I'm not taking any calls. And of course, said I completely understand that. Maybe you could share me with a time frame when you would be able to find some time. I would not take more than 30 minutes of yours. I'll talk a little bit about mentorship here in a second, but calls take up a lot of time. Your 30-minute call takes up like an hour or more of my time because I have to then plan and schedule my day. I can't just drop everything and run and do things. I have to check my schedule, and I've missed calls before with students or even other industry practitioners, and I feel terrible. But it takes up at least double the time that you have allotted for it because I have to make sure I'm there. I have to make sure my computer's set up, my lighting's right and everything. Then I got to take your call, answer your questions. I'm typically very generous when I do take calls. So somebody will call, half an hour schedule. I'll typically block an hour on my actual calendar because I know you're going to have a bunch of questions. But in general, I just don't take calls. It's very, very hard for me to allot the amount of time to do that, especially with everybody that wants to do it and find a way to evenly and fairly do that. And realistically, I just don't have the time. Now, things you can ask and things you should ask on LinkedIn is when you have actual interesting questions here. So one, do not ask about homework help. It drives me nuts. Do not ask me to go into great depth to explain something to you either. yeah, that's a whole process and it takes a bunch of my time. Don't ask for mentorship. So I made this mistake when I was a young student. I emailed Emmanuel Derman, and I took somewhat personal offense that he would not take me as a mentor, but he actually answered a few of my questions. So, I mean, I can't really be that butthurt about it. So mentorship, though, explaining this in a nutshell as well, mentorship takes up a ton of time. So when I say mentorship, I mean like somebody says, okay, I'm currently at school. They give you all their background, all their information, and then they want you to build somewhat of a roadmap for them. Now, I do this per se. People email me, give me this information. I try to respond back. I'm not really eager to because most students have the same thing. Hi, I'm so-and-so. I have an undergraduate degree from India in engineering. I have, 2 years work experience and I want to get into quant finance. What would you do? It's the same thing. Go to the US, get a master's degree, and, you can join the job force here. It's not a bad question. It's just I answer so many of these and everyone thinks like they're unique because they're electrical engineering or they're computer science or something else. But in general, mentorship takes more than that. Typically, then students want you to give them advice on what opportunities to do. And then they want you to say, oh, do you have any papers you're working on that I could help with? Or, could you get me in contact with a bunch of other industry practitioners and professionals? Could you give me more informational interviews about trading or quant dev or and these are great, right? If I was an actual mentor and you were paying me tons and tons of money, and I mean six figures, over 100 grand to be a mentor, it could be a full-time job. But the reality is my time is so valuable. When you start to get up in the upper echelons of the quant space, you just don't have time. I don't even have time to work on my research projects anymore. I haven't had time in, 8 years or something like that. I started it my first year or two in, and then your time disappears. You're so busy, it's hard to get your time back. You'll find out money doesn't matter in the quant space when you become so high up. It's the time that you're I could just get 2 more hours out of a day and not sacrifice all my sleep and have time to eat and shower. Things would be great and wonderful, but you just don't have it. So that's why mentorship is such an ask. When people message me about it, I'm happy to tell them, if you have questions, I'm more than happy to answer your questions here. Now, things you should ask are quick and easy questions to answer here. You might say, hey, Dimitri, I know you work a lot in time series. I watched this video on X, Y, and Z that you created. So you've done your homework, you've done your research. And my professor said this, and it just doesn't align. Could you provide me a little more information on why, is what they're saying, the professor saying correct, or is what you're saying correct? Or somehow do they exist, right? I'm happy to do this, and often it turns in these little dialogues of me explaining stationarity a little bit, them answering a few questions, but it's a quick thought of me just firing something off. I don't have to sit and think about Dimitri, can you teach me how to do this derivative pricing homework? And then it's I haven't done derivative pricing in over a decade because I haven't been in grad school since 2012. When I took those sorts of classes here. So it's been too long, guys. I don't do this. I don't work in this here. The other piece too, which annoys me on LinkedIn, is trying to answer questions and people will ask Dimitri, what skills do you need to be quant dev? I don't work in quant dev, guys. So I'm not going to be the best source of answers here. Maybe go look for someone else who's going to answer those sorts of questions. You want to learn about trading? Go find a trader. I just do quant stuff, but I'm trying to be honest and open with you guys that I don't answer these questions because I'm not going to give you bad advice because I just don't know. Other good questions to ask is a little bit about schools or a little bit about backgrounds. So as I mentioned, everyone seems to have the same background, the same question. Now, if you can give a little more information on why it's a little bit unique or what your struggle is. I've had students that are I have an undergrad, whatever. I've worked for 10 years and I'm trying to get back in the industry. It's okay, this is a little bit more unique situation here. I don't typically talk about, I don't know. Uncle Sam, who's the guy that was in the military for 10 years after his undergrad in mathematics, who's trying to get back into quant finance, but has been working for the military doing, X, Y, and Z for the last, 10 years. These are interesting questions. I'm happy to answer these sorts of questions. I'm happy to get involved with this. If you have requests for me to present at school presentations, I'm much more willing to do those because not just wasting my time on one student. I get to talk to 10 or 20 or 30 of you. And so for me, it looks like the value add is much larger here, right? I get to educate and talk to more students here. Now, other great questions to ask is just for job and internship opportunities. It doesn't hurt, guys. If you just email me and say, hey, do you have any openings for jobs or internships? Awesome. But as I pointed out before, don't just haphazardly say, oh, I'm looking for a job doing trading. And it's well, obviously I don't do trading because you don't watch my channel very much, or you don't even check my LinkedIn profile. Other great questions I continually get is resume reviews. So put a little asterisk here. It's great you guys are asking. I try to provide very honest feedback. I might hurt some people's feelings, but I try to provide it honestly. But the thing is with that too, it takes up a lot of my time, so I'm a little bit slower. So if you send me a resume request to review it, I typically review most of them, but it might take me a few weeks or a few months sometimes, just because I have so many messages coming through the feed. And so when somebody's asking about, like, hey, your channel's awesome, big fan of the channel, this helped me out with X, Y, and Z, then I can message them back quickly and say, oh, hey, thanks. It doesn't take much mental thought on my end. Like, thanks for the feedback. It's great to know that it's been helpful. But when you give me like a task, like a job to do, then it kind of puts me in the headlights, like a deer in the headlights here. And I'm just like, there's like a 20-minute job, maybe 30-minute job. So I'm just going to mark it as unread and I'll come back. And often they just kind of get lost in the mix here. Other things to do as well is feel free to ask industry questions. I think informational interviews are amazing. You should reach out and ask people for calls for this. Again, many of them are going to decline you. The majority of them probably will never respond to you because, again, we just don't have a lot of time. It'd be nice to help, but we can't help everybody. I am more than happy to answer questions through LinkedIn. So if you said, hey, Dimitri, you work in risk management. I'm an undergrad or a grad student or even a high school student. Could you tell me a little bit more about what you do? And what skills are kind of required? I'll typically sit down, like a Saturday or a Sunday, or maybe like at 10:30 at night when I can't sleep, and I'll type up a response on like let me talk about what I do and how I do it and provide information here. It's just when you guys ask for things where it's more of a larger ask, like a mentorship or a resume review, these things are slower, or I just can't do them because we just don't have the time here. So don't try to put people out either. People feel like they're getting sucked out all their life out of them on LinkedIn. I think a lot of us that are industry practitioners that have been doing this for a long time, because there are so many people that need help and want advice. And I am happy to answer questions through LinkedIn, but I do not take calls. Again, but use that opportunity and try to network and find other people who are willing to take calls. And if they say, hey, I don't have the time, be nice and polite and just say, hey, would you be able to answer 2 questions? If they say yes, then you can ask 2 questions that you asked and then leave it at that. That's just a nice, polite thing to do. So that's a little bit of etiquette. Those are a bunch of things that drive me nuts on LinkedIn, especially with the messaging side. Thanks for watching. And as always, until next time.